Hey guys, this is Hannah. I just wanted to talk really briefly and in a very basic way about mining Bitcoin. And really just to tell you some things that I wish that I knew earlier, because I would have gotten into mining Bitcoin earlier if I had. So I've been mining Bitcoin for about a little over a year and a half now, maybe 1.75 years, and I'm happy with it and looking to expand my little mining operation. I have 40 rigs, so that's like a pretty modest position that I've taken, and I've been in profit the whole time. Sometimes, like razor thin margin, and sometimes better. And with mining Bitcoin, it's very power intensive, and so your power costs are going to be the same month after month at the rate that you're locked into in my case, with a host, because this is a thing I didn't know. Like, I thought if you wanted to mine Bitcoin, you had to figure out how to do it yourself and like have a property and like set all that stuff up. You don't. You can have the convenience of having a hosting facility run your rigs for you. Could you get cheaper power on your own versus the sort of premium that you're paying? I mean, the way that they make their money is that they get electricity for whatever, cents per kilowatt hour, and then they charge you a little upcharge on that. So that's their profit margin. Could you get that cheaper on your own? Like, maybe not. For me in Hawaii, no. No, it's like 52 cents a kilowatt hour here. It's like the most expensive in the whole nation. So like, no, I'm not trying to do that. Some people have asked me about solar here, like, oh, can you run your own rigs on solar? And it's like, I already had to cough up a bunch of upfront capital just to get the hardware, like the rigs, in the first place. And then I just can't emphasize enough, like, how power intensive the process is. So to get enough solar going on, like, for me, just no. Also, that would necessitate my having a whole skill set that I don't have, and I don't want to have that skill set currently. Like, I just want to have a little side gig where I'm accumulating Bitcoin and I am experiencing passive income, because passive income really matters to me. I have a lot of stuff that I like to do with my free time, and I have a job too, and the less that I can like trade my time for money, as a wage slave, the better. So passive income, becomes an important thing. And I don't know if you've ever read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, but he really outlines like that there's two kinds of different like approaches that you can take with money and with earning. And the kind of traditional one that I was raised thinking this way, probably most of us were, is that you try to get better and better jobs or promotions or whatever, and you try to go for like a good job with a good income, whether that means you have to go to college for it or whatever. And then you kind of grow your lifestyle as your paychecks allow. So some of the like richest seeming people are no better than paycheck to paycheck, just like their poorer counterparts, because they're getting really big paychecks, and then they're getting really fancy cars and really fancy houses. And so they're still kind of like two paychecks away from maybe some kind of disaster, so that's not the way to do it. So the converse that Robert Kiyosaki advances in this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, is that we really shouldn't be doing any more with our lifestyle and our housing and stuff like that than what we need to get by, so like stay pretty humble with that, and also stay pretty humble with work. It doesn't need to be our whole fucking identity, it can just be like, just find some way to make money. Just find a demand that you can supply and like make some money, just make some money, get an income going. And then instead of having your extravagant lifestyle and your $700 fucking like truck payment or whatever, like soaking up 100% of that and then taking on debt on top of it, you should be trying to keep that lifestyle price tag like pretty modest, and directing as much of the income as you can towards some kind of asset that's appreciating in value over time, to the point you kind of get this flywheel going, where ultimately what the goal is to be paying yourself an income out of your appreciating assets, and then still working and having your paychecks go directly into this flywheel, which is accumulating money for you and outpacing inflation, hopefully is the idea, right? So you're assigning to yourself like an income that you can afford to pay out from these assets. Takes time to build that. Obviously, depends on what asset class you're choosing and the relative risk of all that. It's the whole thing. And then you start thinking about growing your lifestyle. That's like the last thing. That's like the last part of it, which is like the first part that most people do, right? Is like, I got a job. I got a shitty job. I'm going to go out and buy like a crazy lifted truck or something. And it's like, yeah, that's nice to drive that truck, but like, you need to be very cautiously, as you can pay yourself a little bit more out of your assets and not taking away too much of that sourdough starter you got going on there, like maybe get a bigger place, like maybe get a better car, right? So it's like that kind of contrast. So, like I said, I just wanted to give you this in really basic terms. A Bitcoin mining rig is essentially a little computer that is roughly the size and shape of a shoebox, and it's going to cost you like somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 to buy one of those. And it's called an ASIC miner. That stands for something that I don't remember right now. But it's a computer that is entirely optimized for hash rate. Like, so the more it's not in terms of like amperage or voltage or the ways that we might kind of judge other like appliances, it's hash rate. So as time passes, there is a huge incentive landscape for manufacturers to be designing better and more efficient rigs that have maximum like hash rate output while they're like min-maxing, right? They're trying to minimize the power intensiveness of it, how much it costs to run it, how much electricity it costs to run it, while maximizing the hash rate output. And so I know like that probably right there just sounds off-putting on the face of it, but it's literally the same thing as starting some kind of like little business, like if you were going to start a cafe or something, you would need the upfront capital, you would have the overhead cost of what it's going to cost to pay your rent and your employees and for the food and I don't know, the stuff you have to buy. And then ideally you're making some kind of profit. And then the difference between those two things is like what you can keep or reinvest or whatever. So it's no different than that. It just has, honestly, it's a lot more hands-off, which for me, I'm somebody that appreciates that. I don't really want to be managing people or having a storefront or having merchandise or having to inventory the merchandise. There's like all kinds of things that I don't want to do. Like I want more money and I want more time. I want more freedom and more money and time. I don't want to be fucking with all that, So some people, they really love it. They have a passion. They want to start a business where they have heavy equipment or like paint the stripes on the asphalt or like whatever, so if you're really passionate, like do that, but Bitcoin mining is like starting a little business that will generate a little passive income that is incredibly hands-off. It's incredibly hands-off. So for me, that's like, I'm sold. Like I love it. And I'm sold on Bitcoin, so if you're somebody who like hasn't wrapped your head around Bitcoin at all, I think it would be better for you to just like dollar cost average some every month into an exchange like Coinbase or River or whatever, and just be buying a little bit of Bitcoin, and then wait a couple years and you'll see it go up and you'll get excited about it and you'll kind of start to get it, right? Hey, hey, hey. And we're back. Okay, so the worst thing that can happen mining Bitcoin, there's a number of bad things that can happen. The worst thing that could happen is that the price of Bitcoin falls so low that you're still committed to this monthly power cost payment, which for me, for instance, my power, which my rigs are hosted, they're hosted somewhere else. That cost me $6,500 a month. Like I said, ever since I started, I've been in profit. Sometimes that profit is razor thin, but then even that razor thin profit, you give that, a year, couple years, and then that's a lot. I mean, it's going up 100%, 160% like year over year. No other assets doing that. I mean, like if you graph any other appreciating asset against Bitcoin, not against the dollar, but against Bitcoin, everything else is going down. Like S&P 500, real estate, gold, silver, like Bitcoin is the horse to bet on. So, you know, like that can be stressful though. Like the Bitcoin is volatile, and so it's got a fluctuating price, and sometimes your profit is better and sometimes it's worse, and that's just how it goes. If you get Bitcoin, then you're like, people will often ask me like what it is that I'm making every month mining Bitcoin, and I'm like, if I were to liquidate so I have my razor thin profit, and then if I were to like liquidate that and cash that out into dollars every month, because that's not, no, it's like, you shouldn't be mining, like if that's your plan, like you shouldn't be mining Bitcoin, because you don't get that the whole point is to like hang on to it, because Bitcoin does all the heavy lifting. You just have to afford it some time. So, you know, probably, you know, still for the average person, I would say if you're interested in accumulating more Bitcoin, just buy it on the exchange, like over the counter, and just set up some dollar cost averaging. Especially if you don't have a lot of capital to put down up front, or if you do, then just buy Bitcoin with it. You know, like you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong doing that. But for me, I get that Bitcoin is just going up and up and up, and I'm not really interested. Like, my income with my job isn't going up and up and up. Like, my income isn't keeping pace with Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So I'm going, and I don't get my pay any more often than I do, you know, so I'm not in a position to be able to like just like outlay a whole bunch of cash at once to kind of like beat that trend. So if I set myself up to mine Bitcoin, which is essentially like starting my own little small business, but where I have, you know, I don't have to worry about employee turnover or employees freaking stealing money out of the cash register, or the industry that I'm in collapsing, or the government shutting it down because they decided to fake a fucking pandemic, or like the state going crazy because it's like a blue state, or like somebody setting fire to it, not having the right insurance, or something that my insurance doesn't cover because insurance is like pro at figuring out how to not cover stuff, or like all the things that can happen, you know, just the debasement of the currency being like a huge counterparty risk that's happening all the time. I mean, like if you want to accumulate Bitcoin, you basically have three ways to do it. You can either mine it, or you can buy it over the counter from an exchange, or you can get a job of some sort, you know, in the industry where you're earning Bitcoin. Like, you know, those are the three ways that you can get more Bitcoin. So for me, I see the cost to mine Bitcoin is increasing every 4 years because of the halving event that I talked about in a previous video. Like every 4 years there's halving, HALVING. Okay, so like the amount of Bitcoin that can be mined mathematically gets cut in half, holding the power cost, or the hash rate. I mean, the power cost, apparently Tesla already solved energy. So if we could just all like admit that somehow there's some way to get like cheaper, better energy, then the power cost would not be held stable. The power cost would go down. But we're still pretending like Tesla didn't exist, and we all got to like Edison our way through this, I guess. So every 4 years, the same amount of kilowatts per hour, you know, is going to mine half as much Bitcoin. So that's something that you have to face as a miner, but that in itself is the powerful screw that like turns the price up of Bitcoin like indefinitely, and this process is going to go on until 2140. There's a Bitcoin is an open source protocol that was released into the world in 2009, kind of like a virus that just like all of this was already hardwired into it, with a set issuance schedule and a halving every 4 years. That's mathematical exponential scarcity, you know, which is the opposite of what's happening with fiat currency, right? The halving and the mining is going to keep going on until 2140. So yeah, I am working for myself. I'm working now that I'm not going to accumulate any more rigs until I've established a better way to pay for the power every month. What I have been doing is using the Bitcoin that I'm mining to pay for that power. And that like breaks my heart, you know, breaks my heart, because every single Satoshi of that, if I could just have more time, it's going to go up 160% every year. You know what I mean? So having to like liquidate that much of it almost all of it every month, you know, in order to just pay my like monthly power cost is suboptimal. It's still better than not mining any Bitcoin, you know what I mean? But what I'm working on is getting a monthly dividend payout well enough funded that it can like either entirely, eventually it'll entirely cover my mining cost, or it will largely supplant it. Like I'm focused on MSTY, which is it's called Yield Max, and it's a monthly dividend paying fund that's like over on the normal stock market. It's like you can buy that on a regular brokerage, like you can buy shares of that, and then it depending on how much you have, it pays out, you know, every month. So I'm not currently working on getting more rigs. I'm working on getting the MSTY funded to offset the hosting cost so that then I can start keeping more of that Bitcoin every month. And then that's going to powerfully go up. And then my flywheel will get turning faster and I can Robert Kiyosaki even harder, you know, like, so that's what I'm working on. But, yeah, like, you can dork out about it really hard, but what I'm just basically saying is that, like, it's a shoebox that costs between like $1,000, $2,000. I mean, there's ones more expensive than that are like super high powered, mega badass like miners. But I mean, for the average person to get into, like, that it's, and I'm sorry, I've received comments about what a valley girl I am and how often I say like, and it's like too late to fix myself now at this point. So this is just how I am. You can buy some mining rigs and you can have them sent to a host. I mean, you never even see them. It's like they go straight from the where you purchase the rigs to the host. They set them up, they get them hashing for you. You have a little app on your phone that's your mining pool. And again, I feel like I could like really go down the rabbit hole with this stuff, but these are just really basic things that I wish I knew earlier. So you have an app on your phone where you can monitor each of the rigs in real time, what it is that they're paying out, you know, what it is that they're mining, how the hash rate of each one, how they're running. Even if you don't understand that, you can screenshot it and send it over to ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT to tell you how your rigs are running and if it's like looking optimal or if there's probably something that needs to be tweaked, and you can reach out to the host. And sometimes they'll go down for repairs and, you know, they have to spend some time repairing it. But and then you get, it's always exciting. Like every time I get my deposit into my Bitcoin wallet, I get really excited. Oh, that's my dog back there. I get really excited because it's just so cool. It just automatically happens and it comes in the form of Bitcoin, right? So, and it's to me, Bitcoin is the asset to bet on. You know, I think Robert Kiyosaki really spelled it out that we're just 50 shades of poor if we're it doesn't matter what you make for your job, but if you're spending your income directly, like you get a paycheck and you spend it on your lifestyle, and then you get a paycheck and you spend it on your lifestyle, like you're just 50 shades of poor. It doesn't matter how big your paycheck is. Properly, we really should get this flywheel going with some assets, and I think that you would be almost full-blown retarded at this point to not get that like Bitcoin is that asset. Not XRP, not Ethereum, not Cardano, not real estate, not gold, not silver. I'm not saying don't have some of those things. There's a famous Michael Saylor clip where he you know, really takes on the question of diversification. The interviewer is like, but don't you know, you agree like it's safest to diversify, right? And Saylor was like, okay, like I'm on a boat that's sinking and I have 10 children and there's 10 lifeboats and 9 of those lifeboats are sinking and there's one fucking lifeboat that isn't sinking. What am I going to do? Like put one of my children in each lifeboat that I can see with my own eyes is sinking? Or am I going to put all 10 of my fucking kids in the lifeboat that isn't sinking, right? Like that's how he answered it. So, you know, for what that's worth. Yeah. So it's a way to like have a little, you know, business startup that's really, really hands off. It yields a passive income. The more you can keep your hands off that passive income and just let it ride, the better. You can scale it up. You know, you can scale it up kind of infinitely. I'm not able to scale mine up infinitely right now, but that's, you know, once I get my little MSTY dividend thing funded where it's going to be supplanting the cost of the power, then yeah, I'll buy more rigs in the future. I'm a big believer in Bitcoin, and I don't I don't work in the industry where I'm getting my paycheck in Bitcoin. That would be amazing. That'd be amazing, but I don't. I get paid in dollars. Um, I'm not currently purchasing Bitcoin over the counter, and largely I haven't been for some time. There haven't been any windfalls lately. If I got a windfall, that's for sure, but I'm mining Bitcoin, and so regardless of what happens with the price of Bitcoin, I think with kind of every business, like, you have the choice of, you have to ask yourself, here's a thing, is it cheaper to make the thing or is it cheaper to buy the thing, with all of the different considerations around that. So that, I asked myself that, and I decided that it's cheaper for me to accumulate Bitcoin. It's cheaper for me to make it than it is to buy it. It's slow. It's little scraps of Bitcoin that I'm able to save every month after paying this bill, but that's what it is. It's hands off. I have an app on my phone that I can look at and see what's going on, and I can get in touch with the host if it seems like something's sluggish or whatever. But there's a whole lot of stuff that I'm not having to deal with, and that personally I'm not going to deal with. And my little excursions into entrepreneurial endeavor in the past, which largely weren't even my idea, but it was somebody else's idea. I haven't been very happy. Like, that's not for me personally. Like, I'm a creative person. I like to be doing shit like this, like that. That's not what I want to be spending my time and energy on. But I do want a passive income, and I do want to get a appreciating asset flywheel going, as per Kiyosaki. So that's it. That's pretty short. I hope that's of value to you. And I consider a great relationship with the hosting facility that I'm at. I'm at two different ones, but had kind of a negative experience, like, with one. So I know what it's like to not get a great host, but now I feel like I'm with a great host, and I'd be happy to refer or help or whatever. But if that's something you're interested in, I recommend this to everybody. Just get yourself your YouTube PhD in Bitcoin, first of all. Go to YouTube, listen to Michael Saylor, figure out, like, what this represents for you and for humanity, and that it's just the most asymmetrical financial bet, that, like, the mistake we all make is thinking too small. And then, yeah, if you want to accumulate Bitcoin, you can mine it, you can buy it over the counter, or you can be in the industry earning it, in which case you're probably, a bigger mega nerd than me. Okay. Hope that was interesting, and you guys have a great night. Bye.